Pasta alla Bolognese is one of the most iconic, beloved Italian dishes all over the world. And today we are making the one where it all started. Tagliatelle alla Bolognese. Authentic, delicious, and you are gonna love it. Let's cook. Who hasn't had a great pasta plate of something alla Bolognese? Bolognese refers to from Bologna. Bologna is the capital of Emilia-Romagna, which is one of 20 regions in Italy. Emilia-Romagna is known for fast cars, Ferrari, Lamborghini, Maserati, and great food. That's also the area where prosciutto, Parmigiano-Reggiano, and balsamic vinegar are made, just to name a few. The Bolognese sauce we know and love is a ragu. And in Italy, a ragu is any sauce of braised meat. And Bologna has its own very specific way of making it. Ragu alla Bolognese, it's a meat sauce that has tomato and not the other way around. And you'll need at least 3 to 4 hours to make a good one. In fact, the more you cook it, the better. Today, we chose to use a recipe from Marcella Hazan, who is to Italian cooking in the US what Julia Child is to French cooking. She is responsible for teaching Americans authentic Italian cooking at home. And now it's time for shoutouts. These are the people that are cooking, taking pictures, letting us know about it. And you should do the same. Estrella Vivas, one of my best friends forever, did the Spanish tortilla. Brian Horan did too. Porterhouse and the roast chicken. Little sis Kitty Holman from Spain made the fried rice. My brother Hugo made the roasted chicken, roasted potatoes, and the Israeli salad. And finally, Rob McKeever made the chicken steak and the fried rice. We just love our friends that are cooking our stuff. Keep it up. First, we're gonna get organized. The French call this mise en place, and all mise en place is having everything you need, the tools, the ingredients right in front of you. Cooking is about ingredients, time, and temperature. This recipe has easy to find ingredients cooked for a long time at a very low temperature. Remember, mise en place is less stress. Today I wanna save some time, so we have everything already prepped. Everything you need to do here is really simple. There are no new techniques. We're gonna use a cup each of onion, celery, and carrot. This in French is called mirepoix. This is a classic trio in cooking. In fact, it is known as the Holy Trinity. In Italian, they call it sofrito, but it's basically the same thing. And they also call it the Holy Trinity. The key to a sofrito is that you chop everything as small as possible. The sofrito is a base for the sauce. You don't want big chunks competing with the main ingredient. In this case, the main ingredient is the meat, both beef and pork that is ground, and you want both of them to have about 20% fat. The fat is gonna make the sauce taste sweeter and more delicate. The proportion you're gonna use is 1 part beef, half part pork. The original recipe in Bologna calls for pancetta, which is unsmoked bacon. Here we're just using regular ground pork. Another key ingredient is the tomato, and even though it's not the star of the show, it has an important role. Therefore, we're using San Marzano tomatoes. This time, I went all the way up to something known as DOP, which is a certification that they give to only selected producers. The Italian government has verified that this is truly from the San Marzano region. You can actually find this one at Whole Foods and just pay $1 more than the regular San Marzano that is not certified. It makes sense to do it. The original recipe also calls for whole milk, and the idea is that milk cuts through the acidity of the tomato and the white wine, which is also used. We're gonna use freshly grated nutmeg. Make sure you do the same when you make it. The only variation I'm making with this recipe is that I'm adding some tomato paste. This is actually the official way to do it in Bologna, so I decided to add it. Of course, we're using olive oil, but we're also using butter. You see, in the north of Italy, butter and creams are used side by side with olive oil. And finally, the real main ingredient of any pasta dish, the pasta itself. In Bologna, only tagliatelle is used with Bolognese sauce. Therefore, tagliatelle alla Bolognese is not only the original dish, but the only dish. In fact, if you find spaghetti alla bolognese in any restaurant in Italy, beware, that's a tourist trap. However, in the US, tagliatelle is sometimes hard to find, so people have been substituting with spaghetti for so long that it became a thing. I found the tagliatelle of all places at Walmart. I had to get it online and it was a great find. It is an artisanal producer from Italy. I wish you could see the texture. It is so porous, and that comes from two things. Number one, the machines that create the pasta shapes are made of bronze, so they give a more porous texture. The other thing is that dry pasta obviously needs to dry. Most commercial pasta, they do quick drying. This company dries for 2 to 3 days. It makes for an excellent product. So we're ready to cook and I cannot wait. Let's cook. Our pan is ready to go. I'm adding about 1 tablespoon of olive oil and the butter. The butter's gonna bubble, and as soon as it stops bubbling, we're gonna add the onions. If it starts bubbling too much, just lower the heat. Here we go. Take it off the heat there for a moment, because I want to lower the temperature. It already smells delicious. That's going to cook for 5 minutes. Just make sure the heat is low enough so it doesn't get brown. I want to call your attention to the conga line. This is something that we do on our show. You want to make sure that you have all the ingredients that you need. You see, I just added the onions, the carrots, and the celery. Everything else is in the order it's going to go in the pot. It is great so you don't forget anything and everything goes in the right order. Okay, it's been 3 minutes. I'm going to raise the heat for adding the meat. We're gonna add all the meat together. Marcella recommends breaking it apart with a fork. So let's do that. Making sure that if you're using non-stick like me, don't scratch it. You wanna cook this until you see no more raw meat. You need a pan that's big enough. If not, everything is just gonna boil on top of each other. This is the moment to add salt and pepper. That's a touch of pepper, and you need about a tablespoon of salt. So you can see there's no more raw color here. The one that looks white is just the pork. Now we're gonna lower the heat and add the milk. This is gonna take a little bit because this has to simmer slowly until all the milk is evaporated. It's been about half an hour. It's pretty dry. Now we're gonna add the freshly grated nutmeg, 1/4 teaspoon. And we add the wine. This is 2 cups of wine, and we're gonna do exactly the same thing we did with the milk. Pour it in and let it evaporate. You want the taste of the wine, but certainly not the alcohol. So we need to let all that alcohol evaporate away. We'll raise the temperature a little bit and let it bubble away. It's been about 10 minutes. Pretty dry, so it's time to add the tomatoes. I'm adding the tomato paste first. Now we're adding the tomatoes. These tomatoes have been cut up and the liquid that comes with the tomatoes. This is a great recipe for a weekend when you're at home with the family or by yourself and you have 3-4 hours. I'm watching the Formula One race now. You can multitask and do different things while this is happening, and you reward yourself at the end of the day. And the beautiful thing about this is that you can make this sauce and you can put it in the fridge and keep it for a day or two, or you can freeze it. Joanna does this all the time. She uses this recipe a lot. We've been doing it for years. She freezes it, and every time we're in the mood for bolognese and Sebastian loves it, she just takes it out and makes it happen. Joanna is also a great cook, and she does most of the cooking at home. Marcella says you let it simmer at the laziest of simmers. You need to go low and slow for about the next 3 hours. So I'm gonna go watch the race and then come back. It's been about an hour and a half now, and as you can see, the sauce tends to dry out a little bit. What you're gonna do is you're gonna add about a half a cup of water, stir that in, And just keep on doing that until it's ready to go. Remember, we're gonna do this for at least 3 hours. You can do 4 or 5. Just remember to keep on adding water when it gets too dry so it doesn't stick to the bottom and get burned. Okay, it's been 3 hours. The recipe says that most of the liquid should be evaporated and that the fat should separate from the meat. So I am gonna turn it off. Meanwhile, the water is boiling for the pasta. I am gonna taste for seasoning. I got salted water here. You're gonna use a teaspoon of salt for every quart or liter of water. The water has no oil. You don't need any oil. And in it goes. The package says 5 to 7 minutes, and that's what we're doing. We want it al dente. As the pasta cooks, it's gonna release some starch into the water. We're gonna use some of that water as we combine the sauce, the pasta, and the butter in a separate pan. Okay, the pasta is ready. On a separate pan, we're gonna put the pasta, and we don't have to drain it. We're gonna use some of that water. This is one of Sebastian's favorite dishes. I have to put a lot. Butter. The Italians call this process of mixing everything here in the separate pot the mantecatura, which literally translates to either mixing or creaming. I think I may do half of it. Let's see how that goes. And we're gonna add about a quarter of a cup of the water. The pasta was cooked in. Here's our plate. Let's taste it. Finally, taste test. I cannot wait. Another interesting thing about Emilia Romagna here, they produce probably one of the best cheeses in the world, and they don't use it in Bologna for this sauce, but I'm gonna use it. Just grate some right on your plate. Make sure you don't put it in the sauce. Here we go. It's amazing, delicious. It's sweet, it's luscious, it's creamy. I love it. And I personally think that the Parmesan cheese adds to it, even though it's not supposed to go in the recipe, but I do it anyway. I like it. Let me call Joanna. Joanna, come and taste it.
Ooh, I can't wait. It looks fabulous. Amazing. Actually, pasta is one of my favorite foods in the whole world. It should be a food group. That's what I think. Sebastian, right? So good.
That's our puppy.
That's Ginger.
She is so excited smelling this food.
It's perfect. It's so good, so sweet. I think the tagliatelle is just perfect. It's just very creamy. You would think it has like cream.
It feels creamy.
And it doesn't have any cream. Each bite is just perfection.
It's really good. This is one of Sebastian's favorite dishes. Sebastian, come and try it.
Very good.
Is that a thumbs up?
It's incredible.
I hope you get inspired to make your own ragu alla bolognese. Your family is gonna love it. This has got to be in the top 3 bolognese sauces that we have ever eaten. That's why we keep on making it. Just practice. I know you can do it. 4 things. Subscribe, hit like, share with your friends, and cook it. We want you to cook it. I promise you, you're gonna love this one. And now that we've spent all this time making this delicious sauce, and we have a bunch left, we're gonna stay in Italy. And we're gonna cook a sister dish to tagliatelle bolognese. Guess what? Lasagna alla bolognese. Oh, it's gonna be delicious. Come back and see us.